Hi, it's Lee and welcome to the Tesla Economist. Really, not much has been happening with Tesla for quite some time. Well, actually that's not entirely fair. Production's probably up around 40% from about a year ago. However, a lot of that is actually attributed to increases in production in China, rather than just Berlin and Texas ramping. In fact, due to the minimal run rate we see in Berlin and Texas, they're actually bringing down margins. There are a lot more economies of scale to be utilised in those factories still. China is doing an outstanding job in manufacturing though, and is evidence that it is possible to get EV production to much lower costs. The question is though, how much of that Chinese manufacturing can be attributed to the fact that it is just in China, and how much can be replicated outside of China? There is certainly a lot that Tesla has learned from all the Chinese manufacturing prowess. And despite China doing so well, with such high-speed production rates and low cost, it's still using old techniques from Fremont. China has not evolved to the next level with structural battery packs or front castings. Anyway, no new models since the Model Y, which was also about 70% Model 3 in the first place. And we still have more or less the same old Model 3 design from 6 years ago. Yes, we finally have the Cybertruck coming out in a few months, which is going to be a huge deal. I think it will really bring new energy into the company and remind people that eventually Tesla actually do launch new products. And the 4680 Model Y was kind of a new product too, just very disappointing the way it happened, being underspecced and not even in volume production to this day. Don't worry, this isn't going to be a negative video, just an introduction to get you a little down in order to justify the pick-me-up that is coming. The point I'm making is that Tesla has done very little over a long time. That's what I'm getting at. It's been a long time, yet in that time, Tesla's been putting in a lot of work. Man-hours, engineering, capital, resources, research, and everything else. So much so that something is due to come out soon. Yes, the Cybertruck, but possibly more. Just to be clear, I know nothing more than any other avid Tesla research enthusiast. I'm just trying to use common sense and connect dots as to what information and facts we do have, and trying to infer what it might mean as best as possible. As many of you know, I do this a lot, and have a reasonable track record at getting this right, attempting to predict what comes out of Tesla's factories. Sure, I've gotten a few things wrong at times too, but I'm not afraid to put myself out there and back it all up with as many events or facts as possible to justify my opinion as to why. And I present the same evidence to you that I'm basing my inferences on, which is why I also appreciate all your comments from your interpretations too. It would seem that the evidence is stacking up more around the Model 3 Highland coming out relatively soon though, further supported by even more rumours of what this car just might be. Like I was saying, Shanghai is still using old manufacturing techniques back from 2017 when the Model 3 was released. It would be remiss to not think that Shanghai have learned so many new ways of producing a Model 3 that could make it more efficient, increase production speed, and reduce costs. Of course they can. The Model 3 is not yet even using a gigapress. There's supposedly a new gigapress in Shanghai though. How big will this Highland update be? Is it a minor facelift with new headlights, taillights and bumpers? Or is this a major revamp with a rear casting, new structural battery pack? Yes, CATL makes structural battery packs. Hardware 4, new high-definition cameras, new interior. We've seen Tesla make this transition before, when the Model Y in Fremont went from no rear casting to adding the first gigapress in the Model Y. It didn't require that much downtime. It's almost surprising that Tesla have not used one for the Model 3 up to now even. There are quite a few people out there suggesting that this new Model 3 is going to be a lower price. Some even putting it in a price point around $27,000. Tesla have already established the Model 3 price point, and demand and supply are at the market clearing price. The Model 3 has its place, and we have a compact model coming out sometime that we would expect to be around the $25,000 price point. So we wouldn't want the Model 3 in the same position, competing with one another, not to mention all the lost margin. Although there is the chance that perhaps the Model 3 factory in Shanghai could dramatically increase output, perhaps by 50 or even 100%. Remember, the Model 3 factory is actually larger than the Model Y factory by floor space. The Model 3 is obviously a smaller vehicle too, yet the Model Y factory has significantly higher output than the Model 3. If Tesla utilised all their efficiencies they have with manufacturing the Y into the 3, then the output could increase significantly there. Increased efficiencies is also a synonym for reduced costs. Investors think we're looking somewhere between $2,000 to as much as $5,000 cost saving per vehicle, which is obviously massively significant, perhaps increasing gross margins by 10% possibly. However, even just 5% is going to have a huge impact, especially if similar savings can be replicated again for the Model Y. However, the rumours we're hearing are more than just efficiencies. One of the biggest factors in the specifications we're hearing is this battery size going from 60 kilowatt hours to 66 kilowatt hours. This is going to take the Model 3 rear-wheel drive from 270 miles of range to in excess of 300 miles. This is quite possibly the biggest deal when it comes to the Highland, especially if this larger battery is actually lighter due to it being structural with a new hybrid cathode in the cells. This is a higher spec, better looking vehicle that will cost less to build. So is it the fact that it costs less to build that people think Tesla will drop the price? Historically, is this what Tesla have done? Well, if the spec is better, with more range and a new look, then demand will obviously rise. Now, what has Tesla done in the past when demand rises? They obviously have increased the price accordingly. Also, demand for an EV with over 300 miles is going to be a lot more than demand for a 270 mile range car. It's over that 300 miles threshold, which psychologically feels better. It means that consumers will purchase with more confidence that they won't suffer from range anxiety. The vehicle can go the extra distance without having to worry about charging, or can go on those longer journeys that a little bit further. I think this makes a big difference. And there's absolutely nothing else out there in the 300 mile range market anything close to this price point. So if anything, the price could actually increase slightly. If costs decrease and prices increase, then we get to see much better margins. And this is still in a time with relatively high interest rates. Eventually, they too should come down and further reduce the cost of ownership for cars. Perhaps we could eventually see 25% margins for Model 3s, reminding us of what Tesla can actually achieve and have in the past. And their magic is far from over, hitting those crazy margins again. Except now Tesla will be producing a lot more vehicles, yet the operating expenses of the company have not increased at the same rate, thus leaving great operating margins and operating profit. Perhaps Tesla will leave the mid 200 mile range market for the Tesla compact EV. If you want an EV to get around town in and use for your day-to-day driving that is low cost, but still fit out with all the Tesla technology, then there may be a 250 mile range compact Tesla for around $25,000. Yet still, with Tesla's charging network, it would be capable of doing a lot of long distance driving too, if necessary. But then, if you want a longer range vehicle, there's the Model 3 with over 300 miles of range at around $40,000. Of course, the Model Y too, which is competing as a crossover and in a different market segment. And although the current 4680 version of the Model Y is only around 280 miles of range, the 4680 cells still have a long way to go, and within time will be offering in excess of 300 miles too. And this Gen 3 compact version is also what Elon refers to as the robotaxi, which most likely would be doing city driving and not need long distance, if it was indeed used as a robotaxi. It's going to be designed around its required purpose, with the specification to match. This would be my guess as the product mix for Tesla from these vehicles, without cannibalizing the model offering and clearly identifying the market segments. But when will we see the Highland? Well, if I had to guess, then like most of your guesses too, I would say it's going to be when these factories are down for their upgrades. Sounds like a major update. So why would Tesla shut down these factories for perhaps a month or so and not update the Model 3? Only to shut it down sometime later in order to update the Model 3 Highland? This is part of the common sense I'm talking about. I mean, it would time in really well. By the time the factory is up and running, then all the old Model 3s in inventory would have likely been exhausted, and all new customers can order the Highland. Then after all that, we will soon be focused on how the new Model Y will look. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.